Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. The first crack in my marriage didn't come from shouting or slamming doors. It came from a laugh. A sharp, dismissive, almost cruel little laugh that slipped out of Kimberly's mouth during a Saturday barbecue with our friends. I had been telling a story about work. Nothing dramatic, just a moment that made everyone else smile. And she suddenly cut in with, "Logan doesn't really do exciting things. He's steady." Steady. The word hit harder than it should have. Everyone laughed politely, but I felt my cheeks warm, my fingers twitching around my cup. Not because of embarrassment. I'd learned to swallow that long ago, but because behind her tone was something new, something sharp, something distant. That was the moment I knew she wasn't just unhappy. She was pulling away. And pulling away from what? From me, or toward someone else. At the time, I didn't ask. I just offered a tight smile and let the conversation move on. But later that night, as I lay beside her while she scrolled endlessly through her phone with the screen tilted away from me, I felt the quiet certainty settle into my bones. Something, or someone, had changed her. Our life was simple. I worked in an auto parts warehouse, long shifts, reliable hours. She worked in marketing at a downtown real estate office. Our routines overlapped only in the evenings. And even then, lately, she'd come home later and later, carrying that faint smell of citrus cologne that didn't belong to me. She claimed it was from the office. I didn't argue. I just watched. She used to greet me with long hugs, playful kisses on the cheek, and questions about my day. Now she tossed her bag onto the couch and murmured, "I'm tired," before disappearing into long showers or stepping out onto the balcony for calls she never took in front of me. But the biggest change? Her eyes. They used to soften when she looked at me. Now they flickered with impatience. I tried to fix things, planned small date nights, cooked her favorite meals, even surprised her with weekend ideas. She always declined with the same vague excuse. "I just need space, Logan. You're overwhelming me." Overwhelming? I barely saw her. But I stayed calm. I watch patterns. And patterns don't lie. Whenever she claimed she was too exhausted for me, she suddenly had the energy to dress up, curl her hair, put on perfume, and head to the office for extra work. I didn't need to be a detective to know what that meant. Still, I didn't confront her, because confronting her wouldn't give me the truth. But watching her silently, now that would. One night, she left her tablet on the bed while she got ready to finish a late project. Normally, she guarded her electronics like they held nuclear codes. But that night, she slipped. The screen lit up with a message preview. A man's name. A heart emoji. A time and place. My breath hitched. Not because of shock, but because the quiet suspicion I'd been carrying finally hardened into reality. She wasn't just distant. She wasn't just bored. She was building an entire second life. And she thought I'd never notice. I didn't touch the tablet. I took a photo of the preview instead. Small, subtle, enough to remind myself later that this wasn't paranoia. This was the beginning. The next morning, she woke up glowing. Not rested, glowing. The way someone glows when their desires are being fed somewhere else. She brewed her coffee, hummed to herself, and said she'd be working late again, her voice light and casual. That was when my heart locked into place. If she wanted excitement, if she thought I was predictable, if she believed I'd never be anything more than a quiet, boring man, fine, let her believe it. Because while she chased cheap thrills, I was quietly preparing something she'd never forget. A truth so complete, so undeniable, so carefully woven together that when it would hit every person in her orbit. I wasn't going to raise my voice. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to watch, collect, document, prepare. And when the time came, I would deliver a reckoning she never saw coming. Kimberly left the apartment that evening wearing a navy dress I had never seen before, tighter, sleeker, and far too new to be something she bought for work. She didn't know I was watching from the window as she entered a gray SUV that definitely didn't belong to her coworkers. She didn't know my phone captured every plate number, every timestamp, every detail. She also didn't know that this quiet, boring husband she dismissed had already begun pulling on the threads of her double life. For days, I lived like a man split in two. On the outside, I played my role perfectly, Simple, calm, unbothered, even helpful. When she came home late with forced yawns and generic stories about deadlines, I nodded and offered to heat up dinner. When she spent hours in the bathroom with her phone, I did the dishes. When she claimed she was heading out early for team meetings, I simply tied her scarf for her and wished her luck. Inside, though, something entirely different was happening. Every late night meeting she rushed to, logged. Every working dinner she vanished into, marked. Every phone call she stepped outside to take, recorded in silence as I watched her reflection in the balcony door. I wasn't guessing anymore. I was building the truth piece by piece. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Anger would have clouded the work I needed to do. I needed to stay steady, invisible, predictable. The very thing she mocked became my greatest weapon. The first real confirmation arrived on a Thursday night. She forgot to mute her phone, and while she brushed her hair in the mirror, a message lit up. Same place as last time. I booked the room. Room. Not table. Not meeting spot. Room. Her hand froze for half a second, long enough to show me she knew she shouldn't be smiling. That small, private smile she tried to hide in the reflection burned itself into my memory. She typed quickly, then tucked the phone away. She didn't know I saw every letter. From that moment, everything sharpened. I noticed how she stopped wearing her wedding ring to work, how she bought new perfume and sprayed it before leaving, but showered immediately when she got home, how she guarded her phone like a secret life support machine, how she suddenly had new lingerie receipts shoved into the back pocket of her purse. Each detail another thread, and I kept pulling. I hired a private investigator, a quiet, older man named Edward, who didn't ask questions, only nodded slowly as I explained what I needed. I told him to keep everything legal, everything clean, no risks, no reckless traps, just evidence. Solid, undeniable proof of every moment she thought I'd never see. He delivered. Photos of her stepping into that SUV. Videos of her entering a downtown hotel with a man in a charcoal suit. A printed record of his marriage certificate. Yes, marriage. Screenshots of their text messages. Security camera stills of them in hallways. Exchanging glances no coworkers exchange. His name was Matthew Dalton, 38 years old. Married to Emily Dalton, father of 2 girls. A regional director at her office. A man who took off his wedding ring the same nights Kimberly removed hers. Every new folder Edward handed me was both a sting and a strange relief. It meant I wasn't imagining. It meant I wasn't the problem. It meant the way she'd been withdrawing wasn't because I failed. It was because she wanted something reckless, something forbidden, something she believed she could hide behind darkness and excuses. But the deeper I went, the more I discovered something even darker. This wasn't new. Their messages went back months before I suspected anything. Dozens of late-night conversations about how excitement feels better than loyalty. Flirty messages during our anniversaries. Pictures she sent him while telling me she was too tired to talk. And the worst part, one message from her to him said, "He's harmless. He'll never do anything. He's too boring to even question me." Boring. Again. It didn't break me this time. It steeled me. Because there is nothing more dangerous than a man who is silent, observant, and underestimated. By the time I closed the final folder, I no longer felt sadness. I felt clarity. The kind of clarity that burns quietly, slow but final. I didn't want to confront her. Not yet. Confrontation creates chaos. Chaos buries the truth. Chaos gives cheaters room to twist the story, rewrite the narrative, blame the innocent. So instead, I made myself smaller around her. Quieter. Almost forgettable. She mistook that silence for weakness. But it was strategy. She walked around the apartment humming, smiling at her phone, acting as if the world had given her something special. Every lie she told me became easier, smoother, practiced. She believed she was untouchable. She believed the shadows protected her. What she didn't realize was that shadows look different when someone is watching from another angle. The night before everything collapsed, she came home late, glowing again. She kicked off her heels, smiled lazily, and said, "You're sweet, Logan. You never question anything. I appreciate that. Appreciate." As if I was a convenience. A placeholder. A silent witness to my own betrayal. But she didn't see the difference in my eyes. She didn't notice that I wasn't swallowing pain anymore. I was memorizing her face for the storm she didn't know was coming. If she wanted excitement, she was about to experience a level of shock she never imagined. Not loud, not violent, but devastating because it would be the truth, delivered to the one group of people she never wanted to disappoint. Her parents, his wife, every person who believed she lived a stable, respectful life. And she would learn exactly how predictable I wasn't. The morning everything shifted felt strangely calm, too calm, almost as if the world was giving me a moment of silence before everything finally detonated. Kimberly had already left for work, leaving behind the scent of the perfume she reserved only for her late projects. She walked out the door humming, completely unaware that the quiet man she believed she controlled had spent the entire night preparing the final blow. I sat at the kitchen table, sunlight spilling across the wooden surface, my laptop open and every piece of evidence neatly arranged in folders. Screenshots, videos, hotel timestamps, copies of her messages, photos of her stepping into Matthew's car, her smile soft and familiar, the same smile she once reserved for me. It didn't sting anymore. I'd crossed that stage. Now, everything felt almost mechanical. Edward, the private investigator, had delivered the last file around midnight. When he handed it to me, he paused for the first time since we'd started working together. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked quietly. I didn't hesitate. Yes, because sometimes silence is not forgiveness. Silence is preparation. Now all I needed to do was deliver the truth to the right people. I started with Matthew's wife, Emily Dalton. She deserved to know, not in anger or cruelty, but because no woman deserved to live in a lie while her husband played pretend at home. I drafted an email, not dramatic, not emotional, simply the facts. "Emily, I'm sending this because you deserve the truth." I attached the files and hovered for a moment before clicking send. When the email left my outbox, I felt a quiet shift inside me, like an old door closing. Next were Kimberly's parents, Robert and Linda Harrington, two people who believed their daughter was a picture of loyalty and grace. They adored her, and I knew this would break them. But they also deserved the truth. I packaged the evidence carefully with a short, steady message. "I'm sharing this because I believe honesty is better than silence." I didn't accuse. I didn't insult their daughter. I simply showed them what she'd been doing for months. I pressed send. The final address was Matthew's personal email, the one he used for family matters. The man who stole hours from his wife and children to chase excitement with mine. I attached a single compilation file. Not every detail, just enough for him to see his own reflection clearly. Then I closed the laptop and leaned back. It was done. No raised voice. No screaming match. No confrontation that could be twisted into blame. Just truth, delivered cleanly, directly, undeniably. I had given her exactly what she said she wanted. Excitement. But this was a kind she didn't see coming. By late morning, my phone started buzzing. First came a call from an unknown number. "Emily." I didn't answer. Then came texts from Kimberly's mom. Long paragraphs broken by disbelief. "Logan, is this real? When did this start? Why didn't you tell us sooner?" I read each one silently, letting the weight of their shock settle somewhere far from my heart. Then the calls came from Kimberly herself. 3 in a row. Then 4. Then 8. I didn't pick up. I wanted her to sit in the confusion before the truth reached her completely. Around noon, my apartment door flew open. She had forgotten her key that morning, so she must have begged the building manager to let her in. "Logan," she called out, breathless, voice trembling with something between fear and anger. I didn't answer from the kitchen. I waited until she stepped in and saw the laptop still open on the wooden table. Her eyes locked onto the screen, where the last sent email was still displayed in bright blue letters. Her face drained instantly. "W, what is this?" she whispered, voice cracking as she stepped closer. "Why did you send? What did you, Logan? What did you do?" Her panic wasn't for me. It wasn't for our marriage. It was for her image, her reputation, her carefully curated life. I didn't give her the satisfaction of an explosion. I didn't yell or demand explanations. I simply folded my arms, leaning back against the counter, and watched her unravel. "You wanted excitement," I said quietly. "I figured honesty would be a good place to start." She shook her head rapidly, hands trembling as she grabbed the laptop. "You can't. You shouldn't have. Logan, this isn't what you think. It was just It didn't mean anything. If it meant nothing, she wouldn't have hidden it for months. If it meant nothing, she wouldn't have bought dresses just for him. If it meant nothing, she wouldn't be shaking like a leaf now. That's between you and them now, I replied calmly. Your parents, his wife, his family. I'm done carrying it. She covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. Not the gentle kind, but the kind born from panic from being exposed. As she paced the living room, her phone rang again. Her mother. Kimberly stared at the screen, horrified, before answering with a trembling, "Mom, I can explain." But from the volume leaking through the speaker, it was clear her mother wasn't ready for explanations. Not yet. She was demanding answers. Demanding the truth. Demanding to know how her daughter could betray not just her marriage, but the people who trusted her most. Kimberly's knees weakened. She slowly lowered onto the couch, one hand gripping her forehead, as if trying to physically hold herself together. When she finally looked at me, her voice was barely audible. "How could you do this to me?" I met her eyes with the same calm she once mistaken for weakness. "I didn't do anything to you, Kim," I said. "You did this. I just stopped protecting the lie." Her breath hitched. She looked at me as if she was seeing me for the first time. Not the boring, predictable man she once dismissed, but someone she vastly underestimated. While she scrambled to pick up pieces she never expected to drop, I felt something profound settle inside me. Not revenge. Closure. This wasn't about punishing her. It was about freeing myself. And it was working. Kimberly didn't stop shaking for hours. She sat on the couch like someone who just watched their life flip upside down in slow motion. Her phone kept lighting up. Her parents, her sister, even coworkers who must have received fragments of what happened from the Daltons. Every vibration made her flinch. I stayed quiet, letting the weight press down exactly where it belonged, on her choices. It didn't take long before her carefully balanced world began collapsing. Around mid-afternoon, another name appeared on her caller ID. Emily Dalton. This time the phone didn't just ring, it buzzed with a fury. Emily had undoubtedly read everything. Undoubtedly seen every piece of evidence. Undoubtedly realized that the marriage she'd been trying to hold together was being torn apart by two people who played hide-and-seek with loyalty. Kimberly didn't answer. She couldn't. She stared at the screen like it was burning her. She finally whispered, "Logan, I'm going to lose everything." There was a time when that sentence would have crushed me. A time I would have grabbed her hands and reassured her. A time I would have apologized for things I didn't do, just to keep the peace. But that man wasn't standing in front of her anymore. "You lost everything the moment you walked away from what mattered," I said calmly. "You chose this, not me." Tears finally spilled down her cheeks. Heavy, uneven, frantic tears that came from realizing she couldn't rewind this. She reached for me like she had the right to fall apart in my arms, but I stepped back. Her hand hung in the air, shaking before it slowly dropped. "Please, Logan, please. We can fix this. I'll stop everything. I'll change my number. I'll talk to my parents. Just give me a chance to explain." Explain? She'd had months to explain her late nights. Months to explain her changed behavior. Months to come clean. But she never chose honesty. She chose excitement. "What you're trying to fix isn't ours anymore," I told her softly. "It's yours. And you have to face it. I'm done carrying it." Her chest tightened, and she choked back a sob. "I didn't think you'd ever do something like this." "I know," I replied. That was the problem. She had built her affair on one assumption, that I'd remain quiet, that I'd stay predictable, that I'd look the other way forever. She underestimated what quiet people can do once they've had enough. Around 4 p.m., she finally grabbed her coat and left to face her parents. She didn't look back. The door closed behind her with a soft click, and suddenly the apartment felt bigger, lighter, like a place no longer holding secrets in its corners. I walked to the balcony and let the cold air fill my lungs. It wasn't joy I felt. It wasn't triumph. It was something much quieter. Relief. The truth was out. The double life she created had collapsed. Not because I destroyed it, but because I stopped holding it up. I packed a small bag that evening. Not because I was running from anything, but because I needed space she never allowed me to have. I headed to a hotel downtown, checked in under my own name, and for the first time in months, slept without waiting for a door to open at midnight. The next morning, I received one final message from her. A long text filled with apologies, regret, confusion, and a desperate attempt to keep me from leaving. I read every word carefully. Then I turned off my phone, not out of anger, out of peace. Forgiveness doesn't always mean going back. Sometimes it means letting go. Kimberly wanted a life full of excitement and unpredictability. She got it, not from another man, but from the truth catching up to her. And I finally got what I deserved as well. A clean start, a clear conscience, and a knowledge that being boring wasn't the problem. Trusting the wrong person was.